All right, we are recording, so
Well, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with the recording.
okay. You can jump out, Kyle.
Okay. I'm gonna take a little break.
All right. All right, how to invest in physical gold and silver. Here we go. All right, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a timeline here, a short bio from me, and then 4 investment types around gold and silver. And then a lot of times people are confused, or they have essentially analysis paralysis by over analysis. So I'm just going to give you a black and white understanding of one or the other. If you're going to put yourself on mute, Kyle, thanks. I'm in digital marketing, so I know spammers too. All right, I started collecting coins when I was 8 years old. Started learning about bullion at about 29. I'm 42 now. I bought my first gold piece in the year 2010, probably around my first corporate job. A couple things I learned about that, which I'll get into more details later on, is I didn't buy a full ounce. I bought a 1/10 of an ounce, which you're going to pay more of a premium on top of the normal spot price of gold if you do buy something in a smaller denomination. I've worked 17 years in digital marketing for companies like Trend Micro, MoneyGram, as well as a very well-known online bullion retailer. I'm not here today to sell anything. I don't currently work for them, and I don't have anything to sell. So I'm not going to endorse any one particular dealer out there. We've all seen these charts so I just checked probably 5 minutes ago. Silver is at about $24 an ounce, and gold's at about $2,024 an ounce. And so that's what it is according to several market websites. And a lot of these market websites will combine intelligence together. Oh, didn't expect that to come from this one. Okay. Remove you. All right. See you later, Denise. And that might actually be Kyle and Haywood doing triple teaming us. So, all right.
I do not know Haywood.
Okay. Do you know
Yes,
Denise?
Neil, I got the drugs like you said. You want me to
What
deliver
the
them to your
fuck?
house? This is 500 milligrams of cocaine, like you said, Neil. Should I deliver it to your house today, like you wanted me to? Don't
What
worry.
did you-
It took me long to get...
Neil, how dare you?
Neil, you know you have to pay me.
This is such a pointless thing to do. All right. And so it's definitely gone up over the last 30 years. This is the last 30 years mark here. And here's year over year, the percentage changes here for silver and for gold. So you can see 2018, it was a bit down on silver. And then in 2021, but every other year in the last 15 years, it's gone up. And in 2020, silver went up 47%, almost 48%. Gold also went up almost 25% in 2020 and 18% in 2019. All right, 4 types of gold and silver investing. 4 types of gold and silver investing. We've got numismatics, semi-numismatics, bullion, and mining stocks. Not going to cover mining stocks today. You'd be better suited following a lot of the other talking heads out there if you want to know anything about mining stocks. Today, I'm just going to talk about physical gold and silver. And the reason I chose these representative coins that are here, if you look very, very closely, you can see that the numismatic coin is quite old. It's more than 170 years old, whereas a semi-numismatic as a 2023, the Kookaburra has a 2023, as well as the Walking Liberty is 2023. All of them are gold and silver. However, it's gonna be looked at through a different lens. When it comes to numismatics, you can pretty much just replace the word numismatic with coin collecting. It doesn't make much difference. It's just a fancier word for coin collecting. Now, these coins are actually truly rare and usually old. It includes precious and non-precious metals. And in order for them to be worth a lot more than their face value, or without a little bit of extra, if it's extremely old, it will be worth something. But you'll need to get it graded by one of the top 2 or 3 grading companies. And when they grade it, they put it in an encapsulation or slab. These are often historically significant US coins. And they're either minted in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, or West Point. Less mintage per mint mark makes more value, meaning there are certain pennies that came out in San Francisco in the early 1900s and they have an S on there. They're worth a lot more. So people always look for the 1909 S penny. And you can find these types of things in pocket change. When I was 8 or 9 years old, my uncle gave me this book right here. This is a guide of United States coins. It's by R.S. Yeoman, and they've put out at least 73 editions of this, but this is the 1989 version. There is a blue book and there is a red book. So most of these coins were in circulation at one point or another, and they have an assigned government face value. Let me show you a picture of the red book and the blue book. Now, the blue book is for people that are in the business trying to sell and buy, and it basically tells them what they should pay for the actual coin, which is basically take the price and cut it in half. That way they can make a profit on it. But so there's not a huge difference between the two. Both of them have a lot of history inside there, talking about the history of the coins, and all, as it says on the front, it's all about United States. It does talk a little bit about some global coins, or when United States was claimed by several other countries, sort of that in-between period, and also the colonial times. Now, when I was younger, I learned about these they're called Whitman books, Whitman coin folder books. And here I've got a bunch of pennies from 1959 to 1986. They're left some slots open from 1986. It only goes up empty slot until probably 2003 or 4 if I were to fill the rest of it out. Well, whoever filled out the books that had coins that contained some sort of precious metal, for example, quarters from 1964 and before contained 90% silver. So those folks who filled out those folders, which they've been making these folders for since maybe the 1940s, just as long as almost as long as they've been making these the book, they found themselves in a situation where the quarters are worth much more as far as the actual silver content that versus the face value of a quarter. How do I know that? Well, first off, it was essentially when you know the fact that there's precious metals that was in our circulating currency, and then you can get the melt value of the precious metal for that day. You can see that any coin that was a dime from 1964 and before is worth about $1.84 in its silver content. versus just the face value. Same with quarters from 1932 to 1964, worth about $4.59. Most quarters and dimes, even older than that, same situation. They just changed the design at that time. All right, we're talking about semi-numismatic. Semi-numismatic, really, it comes down to the fact that there is a manufactured shortage of them. They only create so many on purpose. And so they may create 5,000 or 6,000 of a particular design. And then they create some sort of a series tied to that design. For example, these are the Queen's Beasts coins. It's sometime in the 1950s, Queen Elizabeth II had some sort of statues that were formed for her, and they all represented something. I don't really know what they represent, but for the last 10 years or longer, they've been putting out one coin a year that matches each one of the beasts. And so it's not that they're extremely rare, and they're definitely not old, but when you have a complete set of something like this, it's a good semi-numismatic play, and people will buy a complete set. Or if a coin has been selling for a while, but they stopped making it because they're only going to make it for 1 year, the next year the coin will be worth a lot more. And so different governments put out these kind of commemorative coins, and they are worth their face value, which is typically $1, the face value, but someone would not be wise to spend them on their face value, because, as I said earlier, silver is worth $25 an ounce. On top of that, if you're buying one of these coins from one of these retailers, you're probably going to spend $40 to $50. So the part that goes between the spot value per ounce and the total value, or the total cost for you, that's the arbitrage that the retailer is trying to make. And that's, from your perspective, that's a premium cost on top of it. So some coins have a higher premium than others. The higher the premium, the less close to spot value. And some people choose to buy coins that have a very low premium. I'll talk about those folks in just a moment. So some of the semi-numismatic qualities that we're talking about here is the coins were really never meant to circulate. They were created specifically for people to collect them. They typically have a very little face value, but a high melt value. As I said, manufactured scarcity. Usually they come in a 1 ounce or 5 ounce. You don't necessarily have to go get these slabbed or graded quickly because they're going to retain their luster for long periods of time if you just have them stored somewhere, either in like a little coin slip, or you may have seen things called monster boxes, which is like a sort of a green box that holds similar coins together. Certain years may fetch a little bit more money that if they were a little bit more rare that year, but for the most part, they're all going to be rated about the same in the value. As I said before, complete collections will fetch a lot more, and governments like Canadians government, Australia, New Zealand, they've created a lot of these in order to create a sort of profit for their government. And the word that they use for that is called seigniorage. Seigniorage is when a government profits from selling you money, basically. So, but if it contains actual precious metals, I'd say it's a good purchase. If it does not, for example, the US government always creates a mint or proof set of every type of coin for that year. So like the 2023, you've got a quarter, you've got a $50, you got a penny. To me, those are not going to be going up in value very quickly. They've been doing that for 70 years, and you can see some of the ones from the 1950s, 60s. The only reason why they are valued at more is because of the silver content. All right, so now we're talking about bullion. So these are folks that are more or less, another word for this is silver stackers. These are people that are buying silver without trying to speculate on the value of a particular design. These are also called silver stackers. So here's some examples of bullion. Get 100-ounce silver bars. And there is a little bit of value to specific brand names when it comes to silver bars, which I won't mention. But for the most part, they don't have to be pristine. They don't have to be in great shape. There can be dings on them. There can be scratches on them. Of course, if there's a story related to them, like these were found in like a sunken pirate ship or something, then you can command a little bit more. But for the most part, it's going to be whatever the per ounce price of silver for that day is, plus a little bit extra. Now, there's a difference between poured bars and pressed bars. Pressed bars are going to be quite symmetrical and quite nice and flat, whereas hand poured bars are going to have a little bit more character uniqueness per bar. This can include rounds as well. Rounds look like coins, but they don't have a government assigned face value, as well as statues, 3D objects made out of silver. They can be anywhere from 1 ounce to 30, 50 ounces. So it doubles as art at the same time. It has intrinsic value. It's also an investment because there are certain makers that eventually they will be worth more, similar to a painting. Doesn't really matter if the age, whether it's old or whether it's new, and sometimes you can't even tell how old something is because it won't have the date on it. Some of the folks that do make silver bars will put a date or will put a serial number because it does help if eventually they age. Usually not rare. This is usually either factory equipment can make these silver bars, or they can just pour another one. There is something called good delivery bars, which there's only about 150 mints in the whole world, and only 3 in the United States that are up to the standard or that try to reach this standard. And it has to do with specific size, specific weight. And these are the bars that central banks buy and put in their vault. But they are made by private mints. So it's governments buying them from private mints, but they do have to be, and for silver bars, it's a 100 ounce around, give or take 5%. And for gold, it's going to be 400 ounces. Actually, I may have that reversed. It may be 400 ounces for silver and 100 ounces for gold. Yes, that's it. That's a lot of gold. That's a lot of silver. You're going to find that the least amount paid on top of the spot value for the day is going to be bullion purchases, and it's going to be through private mints. If you're buying bullion that happens to be like a US coin, there's several middlemen on the way to the retailer selling that coin. But if you're buying directly from a private mint, there'll be a lot less markup. There's a myriad of designs, shapes, and weights. So the sky's the limit, and you can even pour your own silver and make your own stamping if you want to. There's something you can buy called silver shot, which is like little BBs of silver. And then if you buy yourself a kiln and you make it up to the 1800 degrees and melt it, you can use the crucible and pour it into make your own silver bar. All right, this section is called This versus That. This is just where I quickly tell you my opinion on one thing or another when it comes to precious metals. And some people, as I said earlier, get paralysis by overanalysis, and they don't do anything at all. All right, physical versus paper, always physical. buy physical. Don't do paper, don't do options, don't do stock market type stuff. Numismatic versus semi-numismatic versus bullion. I would go with semi-numismatic and bullion. There are a list of coins that you can actually put into what's called a gold IRA or gold 401k that are deemed worthy, and those are going to be very traditional as far as the walking eagle, that kind of thing, a walking liberty, American Eagle coin. So if you're gonna, that's more like long-term investing. Bullion is going to be for stacking silver and more for fun and more for holding precious metals in a liquid form that you can easily go and sell it if you want to, or need mints. As government is going to make those regular coins, and so those are going to be more for the long-term investing. They're not worth any more than the spot, a little bit over the spot value for a long time, especially if they're made very recently. Private mints are going to be, as I mentioned earlier, hand poured bars, and there are certain mints that do command a little bit a higher premium. So which is which? I would say go with both, but depending on your strategy. Coins, rounds, bars. Bars and rounds are going to be more for rounds are going to be for fun, and you're kind of betting on the future of the design and the artists. Bars are going to be just straight weight. You're just buying it for the weight of silver, so the price of silver will be going up, and you're holding more metal for your money in a smaller space. And so that is a foundation to your overall portfolio. And as many experts have said in the past, you should have between 5% to 20% of precious metals in your overall portfolio. Coins are going to be for that long-term hold. Gold versus silver, I would say buy as much silver as you can. There's something called the gold-silver ratio. And for eons and eons of time, which means thousands and thousands of years, there was a ratio that was key. For example, it was something like between 1 ounce of gold equaled 12 to 15 ounces of silver. Well, now it's something like 1 ounce of gold equals 80 something ounces of silver. So there is a imbalance right now, and silver has the opportunity to rise up to the gold level. That's why people are buying lots of silver right now. Hand poured versus pressed bars. I like hand poured bars. If you're going to buy pressed bars, buy the ones that are the great brand names that people love. I said I wouldn't say some of the names, but I will say some of the names because I'm not necessarily giving specific retailer names, because these companies don't even exist anymore. But angle hard bars are, people look for those kind of bars. They're the big 100-ounce bars. So that's just one name. World versus US coins. You're always going to be able to liquidate US coins if you're living in the US much easier than world coins, because a lot of world coins can be faked and people just aren't as familiar with them. Local coin shop versus online retailer. Sometimes you can get a good deal going into a local coin shop where they're trying to get rid of what's called junk silver, junk or continental silver, which is basically dimes and quarters and half dollars and dollars from 1964 and before. You can buy a bag of those for very little markup. Home safe versus bank safe deposit box. I say go with the home. You never know what might happen if people make a run on the bank and you don't have access to your safe deposit box. I would say one thing you could do is have two safes, one with very little in it, but something in it. If a thief finds that safe, it's like, okay, I've already found the safe. It's more of a decoy, and they'll take that safe, but they won't know about your second safe. So it kind of gets around that. So it's kind of a psychological trick. You can also you can also buy silver art, sculptures and whatnot, and paint it a different color so it doesn't even look silver, so they don't recognize that it's silver. There's all kinds of ways you can hide precious metals in your house. All right, here's a handful of strategies that you can approach. Dollar cost averaging. That means just on every month, automatically, you're buying precious metals almost like a robot. Whether they're up, whether they're down, you're just automatically buying them. And you can go to goldprice.org and get the price of what the spot prices of silver and gold. But as I said, don't pay attention to that. If you're using this strategy, just do it no matter what. Set aside a certain amount of your income to do that monthly. Buy on the dip. So while you're doing the dollar cost averaging, you can also look for opportunities where gold was here one week and then all of a sudden it went down here. Okay, well, I know if it was here and it hasn't beat the historical high, then if I buy on the dip, I should be in good shape, or buy a little extra on the dip along with your dollar cost averaging. Other folks try and balance their portfolio by saying, okay, well, this is my overall investment portfolio in stocks, real estate, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's between 5 and 20% precious metals. So as you're adding more to it, you're expanding and retracting that. Pay less premiums, offer hop. So if you go to different websites, if you join their newsletters, you can often get a 10-ounce silver bar at cost, at spot rate. There's also a site called findbullion.com. They're just an affiliate. They're not a retailer, but so they're somewhat objective, and they go out there and they find the absolute lowest premium for whatever sites that are selling the same bar or the same coin or the same round, and they will tell you which is doing what during that time. A lot of these sites will have loss leaders, so they may be losing money on certain items, but then they're making a lot more money on other items. Buy in bulk, you'll notice on a lot of the websites, if you buy 10 or more, your cost goes down a little bit. If you buy 49 or more, or your cost goes down, or maybe it's like 50 ounces or more, your cost goes down. Payment method matters. So look at the different payment methods, whether you're paying through Bitcoin, through check, through a bank transfer, wire actually I think that's actually the least cost for them, so they give you the best deal on that. General advice would be to start small and invest in what you understand. Like Warren Buffett says, when you're buying the different items or when you're shopping, open multiple shopping carts for the same item using the same browser but different tabs, and take it all the way to the very end and see what all the extra added costs are going to be, and then compare all the different websites to see what they're ultimately going to be, which will include shipping and any other fees they have, so you can see what's the best deal for that day. I would say use semi-numismatic for ongoing investing, dollar cost averaging, that kind of thing. And bullion is going to be more for fun, getting the hand poured bars, maybe giving gifts for people on their birthday or for different holidays. Well, that wraps up my time today. I really appreciate everyone for staying on, and I appreciate those that interacted with me. Let me know if you have any questions. This is my email. As I said, I'm not selling anything, but it's just my name with a dot @gmail.com. I hope to talk to you guys in the future. Have a good one.